What up, folks? How are you guys doing out there? Us too.
That's right.
Hey, if you don't know Pamela Hopkins, you should.
You really should. Oh my goodness.
Oh my God, yeah, definitely.
We were just listening to your music again, getting ready for this.
Yes.
And holy cow, you're a brilliant singer. You have such an amazing voice. I'll tell you what, I'm not a country guy. I don't do the country thing. You're impressive. I'm really, truly impressive. Not just because I'm interviewing.
You drew him in.
You drew me in. Our super producer, she's like, I'm not really into the female country. She's like, I like this.
Yeah.
So
awesome.
we're right off the bat. Anybody who's watching this, find Pamela.
Pamela Hopkins is on YouTube. You need to subscribe. We did.
Yeah.
So therefore, you need to, because
Absolutely.
you have to, because why not?
Well,
Right.
I think that you're putting out content that we really need to hear. I think that you're providing music that people really want to listen to.
Yes.
It's not this big mashup and crazy stuff, or somebody trying to throw auto-tune in there, or all this crazy stuff that people are doing and mashing up, and it's confusing. You have a beautiful voice that's powerful in like the Little Thing song, where you're doing the duet.
Yeah.
Your most recent EP where you're
Epay, huh?
Epay. I'm
The Epay.
It's early for us.
Yeah, she's gonna get paid
too.
Absolutely. Throw her the money. Anyway.
So, but
I need that 0.02 cents. I need that 0.02 cents every time you stream it.
I get an amen.
Exactly. So we're just impressed. We also want to shout out. We never do this, and I think we need to do this early. Is MTS Management.
Yes, management. Michael Stover.
He's been incredible. We love
Yes.
him. He's been awesome. But we just need to give him more credit to all the people that we've been interviewing. And Pamela, I'm so excited. So I want to hear. I can talk forever.
You couldn't tell, could you?
Time to hear from you.
Usually I'm the one that can talk forever, and they're like, shut up. And I'm like,
I
what?
want you to talk forever
Exactly.
and a day, okay?
So
There
how
you go.
did you get started in music? Was it just like as a kid you were always singing, or did it come later, or what got you going?
So I say long story short, because it's kind of a long story, but long story short, fourth grade, got hearing tested for music. Basically, when they would put orchestra in elementary schools here. I say here, I'm in Seattle right now, in Arkansas.
Right.
And so they would come in and they would pull all the fourth graders, and they did like hearing tests. So they would say, and they'd play pitches, and you had to go, is it higher or lower than the last pitch? Apparently I did really, really well. And so she, Miss Miyake, who was my first orchestra teacher, called me in and was like, I want you to be in our orchestra. And I was like, okay, like, I don't know anything about this. And she's like, well, we want you to play the cello. We think that would be great. Talk to my mom. And of course, back then, we didn't have a lot of money, very lower middle class, blue collar worker family. And my mom was like, how much is this going to cost me? She's like, no. The cello is provided by the school. So I kind of just went from there on. So fifth grade, I started cello, and then, hang on, I don't know what the crap's going on with that. You there?
Yep, we're here.
Sorry. Because that's my internet. I had to delete that anyway. So basically from there, my mom said I always sung. She's like, you're always singing around the house and you're horrible. You weren't good. She's like, sounded real nasal, because you're a kid, you're just singing, but apparently I really enjoyed it. And I mean, I remember singing and dancing in front of the TV and wanting to do, I don't know how old you guys are, but one of the biggest, I guess, shows that I would watch on Saturday morning was Kids Incorporated. So I'd stand in front of the TV.
God, yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
I remember that.
I've seen
Kids Incorporated.
so
Yeah.
I was singing it.
Group.
Kids Incorporated. I always had to catch that, right? Saturday morning,
Right.
when you had Kids Incorporated.
I loved it. So I would go
That was
KIDS, and I'm singing with it. So fast forward, played cello all the way through high school.
Sorry, I can hear it. It's
Yeah. But basically, went all through high school playing cello up until college. But I started playing piano in the 7th grade, just like a year or two of theory, because I actually ended up going to a school that was for the arts.
okay.
And did that all the way through high school. And then in 11th grade, joined choir.
Yeah.
So I was learning how to harmonize and all that. And then went to college on a choir and orchestra scholarship.
Oh, okay.
And kind of went to Nashville when I was 19, and I did not like the experience back then, because that was a long time ago. There wasn't internet. You couldn't, really, and that sounds so archaic, there wasn't internet. Do we ever remember a time there wasn't internet?
Internet? What?
What? Yeah, you found the ad in the paper, the written thing that folds, that's black and white.
Paper
Oh
thing?
my God.
With the when you had
And
to
you
call
had to
people when it had a
open it
cord on your
up
phone.
and it went like this.
Yeah, I can at least say I never did the party line. Some people are like, oh, party lines, where you had to go, please connect me. I didn't have to do that. But went to Nashville, just didn't have a great experience. I cut my first album and just kind of felt like I was taken, like promised stuff, and it wasn't. So I just kind of gave it up for like a long time. And I just did karaoke here and there, graduated college, got married, raised my family. And then about 8 years ago, decided I wanted to get back into it. My kids were older and I was like, my passion's calling me again. And so started working at a dueling piano bar and got a job there and honed in my skills as a piano player. I've learned drums since then, bass, harmonica.
I'm talking to a lot of people that are multi-instrument,
multifaceted.
Which is really cool. And a lot of people are starting to be like, I really want to create my own stuff, and I don't want people messing with my creativity. Is that kind of where it's going with you as well?
Well, I'm I co-write a lot with some Nashville writers right now, and so I have all these ideas that pop into my head. Some not so favorable that I don't know would go over well. So I have to talk to my co-writers about it and go, here's some of my ideas. And our co-writing session kind of looks like this. We get on Zoom because they're in Nashville and I'm in Little Rock, Norway, right outside of Little Rock. And they go, what are we writing this week? And I go to my phone and I go to the notes and I go, well, here's the titles I've come up with. And here's my storylines. Here's my ideas. This is what's on my mind. And I always ask them, what's sticking out to you? And, they'll be like, well, this one sounds good. Let's start writing it, or this one sounds good. So let's start, which direction are you want to go? So they help me kind of hone in the story. So I've got one song that I probably will never record, and it's called Bitch, which stands in being in total control, honey. And I don't know that I'll ever record it, but it helps me get that outlet of like what's going on up here on paper into a melody. But if people read the lyrics, they'd be like, that's a badass song. And I'm like, well, don't know how well it go over in the country world, but
sometimes there's definitely obviously that you write stuff, but it's not what the image you're trying to put out, right?
Right. Well, there's another one we wrote. It's called It's About the Effing Money. So
you'll be selling those songs to like Bone Thugs and Harmonies coming back together or something. You can give
right. Well, this one, it would sound, you would think it's like a rap type song, but honestly, it's a country song about the Nashville Big Cats, about how, it's basically, and it's messages that I've been given, like, gosh, she's talented. She's pretty. 2 questions. Where's she at? Well, she's in Little Rock, which is, 5 hours outside of Nashville.
Yeah.
And how old is she?
Yeah.
Well, she's in her mid 40s. Yeah, won't touch her. So we wrote a song called It's About the Effing Money. If they don't think they can sell you, even though you're talented, they'd rather pick somebody in their early 20s who's not as talented that they think they can, keep her. And I get it. It's a money game. So we just wrote the song. It's about the effing money.
I get it.
And it calls out some of the big players. So.
Hey, you're all good. You're set. It's all
and
good.
I'm thinking I'm independent. Does it matter? Like you don't pick me up. You weren't going to anyway. So why do I care?
Well, I'm glad I'm interviewing you because we want to help share that because you're impressive. And I don't say that often. I love who we interview, but man, it was impressive, right?
Yeah.
We're
like, stop.
Yeah. So did you know that she just became part of the recording community, the Grammy? Wait, hold on. I know I'm going to butcher this. Give me a second.
She could tell us.
She's class of 20. Yeah. Why don't you tell us? You could say it better than I can right now.
Yes. So there's an application process, and you have to be nominated for the Recording Academy, which is the Grammy Awards. So to be part of one of the voting members, you have to be nominated by other people in the field. And then it's an application process, and they look at everything you've put together, all of your articles you have out on you, and they decide whether or not to invite you to be part of their recording class or their class to where, like, I get to actually vote on the Grammys this year. So I also got to nominate people for the Grammys.
That is awesome.
That's awesome.
That is.
It's really cool.
I was pretty excited about it. I was like, what does this mean?
Yeah, that's what I was just going to ask. What exactly does it mean? Is it something where, okay, they've slotted you into country, you can only nominate folks that are in country, or you can
Nominate anybody? Yeah. So I'm with the Memphis chapter, and we have a meeting, my first meeting with them tomorrow. So everybody just gets notified kind of in June who they accept into their thing. And I think it's good for at least 3 years, and then they probably see how active you are and they either boot you out or keep you, would be my assumption.
Gotcha.
But so they have, like, for those of us that are new, we had a Zoom call and they went over, like, here's what you do. It's time to start, you want to be involved with your chapter, get to know these other music professionals that are like world-class, producers, world-class, so I feel like it's going to be a good thing for an independent artist to be able to get to know these people that will help me go a little further. And then if somebody I can help, obviously I'll do it too. But our first Zoom meeting basically was about how to nominate for the Grammys for this next year. And so the process, and you have to go into their portal, and this is the things you never think about. Like, well, how do they get these? Like, why does this person get nominated for a Grammy? And maybe I think their song sucks. I'm like, that's horrible. Why did they get a Grammy? Or why are they nominated when this may be better? Well, because it's people like us that nominate them. So as an independent artist, I'm going to nominate other independent artists.
Yeah.
And it's a long shot, but the thing is somebody who is voting has to listen to it.
Yeah.
So it's the way kind of us independent artists in Arkansas are looking at it is it's a way to get our name out there, number one, but also other great independent artists that need a chance to be heard by people other than just our peers, like around us. So
that kind of brings up a question for me, because you're obviously having to listen to all these different genres and different songs and different artists. Do you feel that's going to really help you in your growth as a singer-songwriter? Like, do you feel like you're going to pull a little from that inspiration?
I would think so.
Here, right?
Right. I listen to everything because I'm a dueling piano player, so I have to.
Right.
So dueling pianos, like, I know over 1,000 songs that are just swimming up here in my head, which is like, I can play them and sing them. But
Hold on.
one of the reasons, yeah.
I gotta cut you up. I have a hard time remembering my name, and she's got 1,000 songs.
Well,
just
that's you.
That is unbelievable.
Sorry. Yeah, I can't remember my name sometimes. It's a different part of the brain.
Okay, got it.
Somewhere.
Got it.
There's some misfires going on, I promise you. And there's days I can't there's songs I performed.
Misfire, so I get it.
Yeah. No.
There are songs that I've performed for 8 years that sometimes nightly that come up, and I'll start it on piano and I'm like, I can't remember how to play it. My fingers aren't doing what they're supposed to do. And then I'll have to look at my partner who's sitting across from me and go, what are the first words to the song? And they'll start me and then I'm good. I just got to get going. But to answer your question, I think that once all of that, because we're still in the process, because they don't end the first, they just did the first nomination process, and they have round 2, which starts I think the beginning of September, and it goes from like September of last year to September, I think it's like 20th of this year or 10th of this year, I can't remember the exact date in September, that all of these songs can be, and producers can be nominated. But there are songs that come out in the first round, between the first round and second round that month, that also can be nominated. So they put those into the second one. So I'm waiting to be given whatever it is. I'll find out that process. But I always, I have a lot of independent artists that go, hey, can you listen to my stuff? And I always try to be the person to go, yeah, I'll take a listen to it. And I'm like, do you want my opinion, or because I'm not an expert, I'm just doing me. Right. But I can tell you what I hear that may help you, and you can take it or leave it. But I'm not, here to try to critique your songwriting, because this is you pouring your heart out. Now, if you're asking me what can make it better, well, I'm not a perfect songwriter either, but I'll give my suggestions. So I'm hoping that listening to these different genres that, like I said, I listen to all different genres anyway, but maybe hearing some of the artists that are coming through with an official nomination that I might not know.
Right.
So a way to learn and grow, and maybe become a fan of somebody that that maybe isn't mainstream.
Yeah. As an independent artist, do you find that they're trying to work together or more apart now? Like, because it's so hard to get marketed by somebody. You were just saying that. Like, are you not, 20 years old and coming out on the scene and we're going to market you because of that, not necessarily what you do. Is there, is independent artists starting to try and come together to help support each other to grow? Or is it just so far apart that that's not happening?
Well, I think so, because we have groups on Facebook where, you'll share your new song and you're hoping that people see it, but the Facebook algorithm
Right.
sometimes shows you, sometimes doesn't. But trying to make those connections, like I'm part of a DIY musician, which is, the do-it-yourself, obviously.
Right.
And there's several members in it. I want to say probably maybe up to 1,000 that are all independent artists that, if you were on that board all the time, it would help. But some of us, it doesn't show us when a post is there. So you have to physically go into the board and look. I think we try to, as a community, support each other, especially at live music events. If I'm not gigging somewhere and I have a friend that's like, hey, I'm playing here tonight, I might go check it out. So that they have a body in the seat, because that's what's important. That's what keeps us. Also, any live musicians, even big names, if butts aren't in the seats and tickets aren't being sold, they don't have a job.
Right.
So at least in Arkansas, we try to support each other. I'm part of, I'd say, kind of a small community in Arkansas where I know who these people are. They know who I am. They come to Willie D's. I try to go to their stuff, and I use a lot of them for my band. So like if my guitar player can't come, then I'll call this guitar player who also has his own music out. And then when I'm doing my show, I promote them. Hey, y'all go ahead and, like Shane Thornton is a real good friend of mine. He plays bass for me, but he also plays acoustic for me. And so I'll say, hey guys, go follow Big Shane Thornton. He's got great music. He's a songwriter. He's won some Josie Awards. And so I'm hoping to kind of cross promote, but that's local. That's the only thing. Sometimes it's hard. You got to start traveling. And I think a lot of independent musicians and independent artists that are not on labels have day jobs. And so sometimes it can be hard and sticky if it's not their full-time job to concentrate on somebody else's music when they're trying to concentrate on theirs. So if that answers the question, I feel like we are.
No, it does. I get it.
But I think people are busy, so it's kind of hard to do it all the time.
Are you a fan of live? Do you get a lot from being on stage, or are you more of the,
that is like my passion.
That's what I wanted to know. Like, some people just want to be artists on the internet,
in the studio.
Yeah, no.
So,
I can be in the worst mood and go into work. I work at Willie D's, which is a dueling piano bar, and then I schedule my band about once a month, or we do festivals and stuff, because that's my full-time job, so I don't want to take away from it.
right?
Because then they have to replace me, and then I'm like, well, that pays my bills. So but it's like as soon as I step on stage, I'm a different person. Like I'm just every worry, every whatever has gone away. And the best way I can, I guess, describe that is about a year and a half ago, I was doing a tour in Europe, and my dad was real sick, and he passed away while I was down there. But of course, we were on the train going into Naples, Italy, and I got the news when I was on the train. Of course, I cried a little bit, but then, Sandy, the lady that was over me, she was like, "Are you going to be okay?" Because we had to perform that night. I was like, yeah, I think I'll be fine. And I was afraid of me getting on stage and breaking down, but it's like, as soon as I got on stage, and you hate to say it, I just kind of forgot everything.
yeah.
And so for that mild time, it's like I'm in a different place in my life, and a different place in my brain. It just goes, this is your happy place. Forget everything.
You needed that night.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and so then, she checked on me the next day. She was like, "Are you still okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, I think I'm good." We expected him to pass, and he'd been sick for about 8 years. And so it was just time. And so even though you're expecting it, I was over there. So I, had been touring in different places. And I knew at one point, I always said my goodbyes before I left in case I didn't see him again. So, but just being able to, like I said, step on stage and that be gone for that couple of hours is like an escape, so that's my happy place. So the studio, I kind of get scared of, honestly.
Really?
That's interesting.
Yeah. And the reason is because I don't feel like my
Yeah.
energy is not the same without a crowd.
You feed off the crowd.
I do.
I can totally see
Yeah.
that. Yeah. Absolutely. The crowd gives you the energy, the positivity. to get out there and want to do more for them, right?
Right. Well,
That's-
and even if they're not giving it back, because there's times that they're just sitting there listening,
Yeah.
but I'll get off the stage and they're like, oh my God, like, when are you going back up? Because I'm on an hour and off an hour because we have 4 of us that play. So 2 of us at a time play. So we get a
Gotcha.
break. And even with my band, the 4 to the 15-minute break I get between sets, people
Yeah.
come up like, man, like you're so inspirational. I'm like, thank you for those kind words. And I kind of take it, because one of my partners told me one time, you're playing for drunk people, take it with a grain of salt. Whether they say they love you or they say you suck, take it with a grain of salt.
Truth. Oh man. So I want to go back to the question, because we've been talking with quite a few people in the music industry lately. And one gentleman, I can't remember his name right now. I'm sorry, that's horrible of me. But he said that there are studio recording artists and then there are live recording artists. And that sometimes it's hard to find somebody that's a mixture of both. You've technically answered the question already for us, but do you truly feel that there is the studio and that there is the live recording artists?
I think so, but there are some that can do both very, very well. Like I think that's right. Well, so like Ashley McBride, I think I just saw her in concert last week, and she sounded on stage just like she sounded in the studio. So I would say she's a good mix of both. I'm working on it. So, but I have heard, I mean, have y'all ever been to concerts where you're like, ooh,
Yeah.
does not sound good. Yeah, so much better when somebody could sit there and go, okay, repunch this one in, repunch this one in. My particular producers, they always say, like when I go, they're like, we don't have to do much to your vocals. Like you're in tune, like you got it, which is, but what they have to get from me is the energy. And so my producer's wife has literally danced in front of the window when I've been in the recording.
I was actually going to ask the question now.
Yeah.
So how do you supplement that? We've asked this question because we've interviewed comedians, professional comedians, professional athletes, musicians all around the world. And we always talk about what gets them going before an event or a sport or something like that. We've talked about some of them listen to certain music. One of them was they listen to rap before they go sing heavy metal or, which is kind of interesting. So you're going in the studio, and it may be different going out on stage, but do you listen or do you have a routine before you go out and perform or even going into the studio?
So before I go in the studio, I take a couple of shots, just because it helps me loosen up. Shots of whatever.
Got anything ×2, please. Yeah.
Right. See too. Well, the funny thing is I wrote a song called Straight Shooter, and it talks about how I don't drink anything but whiskey, which is kind of true. And I drink Tito's too, but I drink whiskey, and I'm not a big drinker unless I'm working, which is, I know that sounds kind of counterintuitive. I drink at work, but I'm allowed to.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
I was a social drinker at work, by the way, folks.
I was a cop for 13 years and it was frowned upon. So I kind of enjoy it now.
Yeah.
Right. That's a tough shots before work.
Thank you.
Right. Well, and then I was a teacher after that. I had my master's degree in education. So I taught for 5 years before I actually went into doing pianos. But I always make that joke. I'm like, I actually get to drink on the job now. And that was frowned upon in my other careers. You get in trouble for that for some reason.
Well, no, it's interesting that you say that, because you said you were a cop and then you're a teacher and then you were drawn back to music, and that's your happy place, right?
Right. That is so my happy place.
Doing what makes you happy, right? So how did you transform from police to teacher and then back to music?
Okay. So long story short, graduated college. My husband at the time, I graduated college, then got married, but he had been a cop for about a year and a half. And at that time, I couldn't find a better job with my degree, which my degree was in psychology. And I was like, I couldn't find, all the jobs paid minimum wage. I'm like, I had this 4-year degree and I'm going to make $6 an hour, because we're talking about in the 90s. And I was like, well, he kind of looks like he has a fun job. So I rode along with him a couple of times. I was like, do you mind if I apply to do this? He's like, I don't care. I was a front desk manager at a hotel, and I applied and got the job, and I really loved it. And I felt like that was my calling at that time. Mm-hmm. But I'm a firm believer that, we live one time. well, we live every day. Hopefully we die once, but you live every day, and making the most out of those days is what's important. So when you lose passion for something, there's so many people that stick in a job because, well, it's my retirement. Well, and I'm like, but you're working to die.
Yeah.
What are you doing in that time? If you don't love what you do, and it's okay to have loved it at some point and go, that's just not me anymore. I've got to transition out to something else.
Yeah.
I went from police work. I was a DARE officer, so I taught in the schools for 9 out of the 13 years, and loved being in the school environment with the kids. Well, I got promoted, and they put me back out on the street. And it was fun for a little while. Then I was like, I don't see my kids anymore, my own kids. And they were asking me not to go to work on the weekends, and went back to my husband and I said, hey, I really miss being in the schools. Do you mind if I just go ahead and get my master's degree and teach? Because I think that's where I need to be. And he said, well, if that's what you want to do, do it. He's always like, whatever, we'll make it work. And so I taught and went to grad school at the same time. I got a provisional license and taught for 5 years. And then my dad got sick. And my oldest son is a type 1 diabetic. And I was always having to take him to the doctor, do this, do that. Or, I had no time to be sick because I only had 10 days off a year. I had to take him and be home with him sometimes. So at about year 4, going into year 5 of my teaching, that's when we found out my dad was sick, and found out my youngest son was going to be type 1 diabetic as well. So now I have 2 diabetics in my house, and it's nowhere in my family. So we have no clue where it came from. Both of them are skinny as a rail, and it happened. They don't produce their own insulin. So I had to have more time off. And I was like, this is calling me again. Like the music's calling me again. And basically talked to my husband again. Do you mind if I do this part-time? Went to a piano bar and told them I play piano and I sing. And they said, come out on Thursday nights and we'll let you get up and start practicing. And basically I would sit in for like 6-7 months. I sat in for free and learned the gig a little bit, and then got offered a part-time job while I was teaching. So I was working like 2-3 nights a week while I was teaching. And then the end of my 5th year, they basically were like, well, we'd like to offer you a full-time job and it'll replace your income. And I was like, yes.
In there. Yeah, that's awesome.
There you go. I like
And so
it.
I've been doing it coming up on 8 years, and I've been an independent artist for coming up on 4, I think, so 3.5, 4, whenever my first EP came out. And that transition, just because I was like, okay, I'm playing everybody else's songs and people love it. Great. What am I doing? Where can I move next? I'm always looking at, it's not chasing something, but it's keeping myself busy to not be stale.
Get that.
So what's my next move? Okay, well, now I've got songs that I've recorded that other people wrote that were not mainstream because they were independent writers that wrote them. And then I wrote a song and then put that out. And then I was like, okay, well, what's next? Well, now I have to write my own. So now I've got to find a community that will help me do that. And because I've got all these ideas, and let's do it. So that's where I'm at. So now I write usually every other week if things are going right. I'm on a Zoom call with Nashville writers, and I think we've written about 10 complete songs in the last 8 months.
Wow.
So yeah, which some people are like, how are you finishing something? I'm like, well, if I had the time to write all the time, but I do have a day job as well. Because I help my husband. We own our own territory in Arkansas with Balfour. So we sell class rings. And so I help him during the day. And then I have my night job, and then finding the time with my 3 kids. One is out of college. The other one just graduated. She's going to college this week. My youngest is starting 11th grade today. So yeah, it's being a mom, being a wife, having this job, having that job, writing. It's a lot, but it's very, so I'm kind of methodical about it. And then I have a new song coming out in 2 weeks called Back When. So now I've got to start promoting that. A lot.
This will be
and I am my own team. I'm in.
right.
You got 2 guys that like you over
Yeah,
here, so
we love you. With
Yay.
come on all day, I think, with her.
absolutely. But I have one more
You guys
question.
go for it. Let's hit
I
it.
gotta ask at least one more question.
Okay.
Your story is so unique in the way that you went about things. I love it. Let's say you're back to being 20 again. What advice would you give yourself?
Dang, man.
Well, right. Okay.
Gotcha.
So because sometimes I do feel like, I regret not doing it at a younger age, where maybe I had a chance to be with a label to push me. Because like I said, doing it independently is time consuming. It's hard. I am a team of one. I have, my drummer helps me a lot because he's a computer person. So he'll say, like, if you need me to do anything, and he'll help me do some things, but he can't do everything for me.
Right.
So one of the things that I probably would tell myself is to learn to accompany myself early on, because I didn't learn to do that until 8 years ago. I
Okay.
could play piano, but I didn't know how to go about playing and singing at the same time. And I would have told myself, hey, work on this just like you did, like I did 8 years ago, when it became like, hey, I'm determined this is what I want to do. Back then it was like I wanted to do it, but I was so jaded over what had kind of transpired in Nashville that I was just like, F that. I don't even want to do that. No, I don't want any part of this scam they have going on. And I don't think mentally I was prepared back then, or I just didn't know where to go or what to do. So I would have probably, if I had advice for myself, learn an instrument and then start trying to get gigs. And that's what I would tell anybody now. And that's what I do tell them. I'm like, great that you have songs you've written. Are you playing them anywhere?
Right.
No. And they're playing them on a guitar and sending them to me. So I know you can play them.
Yeah.
I know you can sing them because I'm hearing you. Have you booked yourself anywhere? And they're like, well, no. And I'm like, it's good if you're a recording artist, but if people can't come to see you live, your following is going to be a lot less, unless you're on a label that's pushing you out to the radio, spending the hundreds of thousands of dollars to do that and promote you as a team. You're not there. So what do you have to do? You have to get out and perform live. You have to start building your fan base yourself. And how do you do that? You just got to put your foot out the door and do it.
Right.
It's about taking the step. And, they always say, fake it till you make it. Well, everybody starts somewhere.
Right.
True.
And even if you suck, you'll get better.
Right.
Exactly. Nice. I love it.
Well, Pamela, you're amazing.
Yes.
Everybody go listen to her song. Get on her
Yes.
YouTube, subscribe, listen. All of the links are in the descriptions.
Down there.
You're going to
over
be able
there,
to go
up
find
there.
her. I can't wait. I mean, hopefully another 6 months, I'll be able to come and follow up and see where you're at in another 6 months.
Yes.
Because I'm actually now a fan.
Yes.
Thank you. I'll probably have 3 more songs out by then. So I've got one coming out in 2 weeks called Back When. And it's basically about my childhood and basically probably you guys can relate as well, about childhood going into teenage years, basically kind of talking yourself as an adult back then. I wish I could go back.
Yeah.
And if I knew what I knew now back then, things I could have accomplished, and so that's a song that I wrote that comes out in 2 weeks. And then I'll have One More Last Kiss and Straight Shooter probably out by then.
Right.
But I do have 2 2 YouTube channels. I don't know which one you're promoting, but I have 2.
Go ahead and throw them out there right now, real quick for us.
Everybody's know.
So my official music video channel is Pamela Hopkins Vivo, VEVO, all one word, Pamela Hopkins Vivo. And that's the one channel that has my official music videos on it. And then I have my artist channel, which is, you could just look up Pamela Hopkins and it's right there.
Okay.
If you search it, you'll see it. You'll see one that has official looking videos and one that has like camcorder videos, camera phone videos. I don't know how to explain it, but yeah. But please subscribe to both and send me a message. I'll respond. I do respond back.
Find the other one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. Pamela, love you. You're amazing. I'm just excited
Thank
about
you.
what you're doing and how you're going about it and all the things that you're
I
accomplishing.
appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to talk to me.
Coming on the show. So thank you
Definitely.
so
We
much.
appreciate
Yeah.
you.
Right on. Well, what up?
I appreciate you.
Thank you. Yeah.
What up, everybody?
What
Hey,
up?
thank you for listening. And real quick, got to give a shout out to our sponsor, Anchor by Spotify. Go check us out on our podcast there and on the YouTube channel. Thank you, everybody. Good night.